Good afternoon, everyone. This is Ashraful here from Rugged Board Group, and I hope you everyone know about the technical session two we are going to conduct today. So I welcome everyone to this session, and today we will be discussing more on the embedded Python programming on Rugged Board. So it is a embedded Linux system which is built on Yocto build system, and we will be focusing how to write Python programs on the Rugged Board. And next sessions also we will be showing how to enable toolchain or how to write a C program on Rugged Board basically. So today let me show you some of the things by the time Vasu sir joins basically. So I would like to showcase some of the technical documentation where we will get in our website. I'll just share my screen for a second. Yeah, I hope my screen is visible. So here, this is ruggedboard.com. So the ruggedboard is nothing but it is a trademark of PyTech. It is a open source hardware and software platform for industrial single board computers. Especially if you talk about Industry 4.0 or smart energy, smart agriculture, and smart city applications, right? So here in this case, you can see the specifications and all. Anyway, definitely you have already understood all these things in our previous sessions. So today I will be focusing on the resources and the documentation available on Rugged Board, right? So just give me 1 minute, 1 second. Yeah. So here you can see start your software development. So if you go to resources, you will find out start your software development. So it is something like it will take you to a website called developer.ruggedboard.com. If you want to start using the Rugged Board for the initial setup process and all, you can go to the developer.ruggedboard.com website and you will be finding out all the documents. So it is quick start guide. Here it is available that how to set up your Ubuntu system or the host PC. Okay, so if you have a Linux PC, what to do? If you have a Windows PC, what to do? If you have a Windows system for Linux, then what to do? So all these steps have been mentioned on this website, and also you have test all the interfaces in using in Rugged Board in 10 minutes using command line. So that is also available. So you can go to like GPIO if you want to test GPIO using the sysfs command. If you want to glow some LED, you have onboard LED as well as switch is also available on board. So you can check the GPIO in and GPIO out on the board directly without buying any other external component. You can check the RS232 and other things you can check. Anyway, Basu sir will be giving the more explanation about it on the during the session. Also, we have how to write a Python program. So that is the main topic of this today's session. So we will go in deep about it, and you can see other documents are also available, which will be everything is not uploaded yet, but yeah, we are uploading one by one, slowly. So next thing is, if you want to see the document of Rugged Board, document in the sense you want to find the hardware manual as well as you want to find the schematic, right? Then you can go to this document section and you will find out view all documents. So click here to view all the documents. So it will take you to a Google Drive link where you can find out the schematic of the board, also the hardware manual and the flyer as well. So you can see the schematic here, and also you can see the release notes, the software release notes I mean to say. So by default, what are the things you are getting in the software? So you will be seeing the software components by default available. So these are anyway customizable. So by default, what are the things you get on the default software? So you can see the release note here. Okay. So coming back, one more thing we have.
Once you are done, let me know.
Yeah, sure, sir. So we have forum as well as blogs here. So where you can ask any questions anytime. If you have any questions, you can go to forum and blogs. So you might be a little bit confused that why we have actually made Rugged Board as a separate, if it is a FiTech entity, right? So actually, FiTech, as you know, that it's a we have our proprietary products like SOMs and all. So which is not open source, basically, not or like directly open source. But this Rugged Board is fully made in India platform, where starting from the design component, everything is been done, manufactured, assembled in India. That too in Bangalore region. Okay, so that's why we had to make it as a separate entity, as a open source initiative, and especially to help the Indian scenarios, Indian customers. And also we have tried to make the product cost as low as possible, basically maximum to maximum. We have tried to reduce the cost without reducing the quality of the product, basically. We have maintained the German quality. Okay, so I will not take much time. So I'll hand over the stage to Vasu sir. He will be guiding you for the the Linux architecture and some library architecture of the operating system, and he will be going through the Python programming on Rugged Board. So as usual, if you have any questions during the session, please write the question on the chat box. We will try to answer the question after the end of the session, basically. Thank you. Over to Vasu sir.
Thank you, Ashraful. Thank you for the introduction. And then, first of all, good afternoon to all the participants. So I could see a huge crowd, and I believe we start the session directly. Oh, what's this?
Mr.
Mohab Shil, Madhab Shil has switched on the video. Requesting all to switch off your videos because it will interrupt our classes, and also switch off your audio. Whatever the queries you have, you can put it in a chat, and then as you all are aware, our contact details are very much available. You can post a discussion. We can discuss in detail if anything has been missed in this session, basically. So Subbu, please don't test your videos. Requesting all, don't test your videos while the session is going on. It disturbs a lot, because we are trying to stream this video online, so that or recording online, so which will affect the presentation and also affect the session audio. Okay, so let's start from the part. Ashraful, can you acknowledge the presentation is shared?
Yes, it's we can see your video as well as the presentation. You can go ahead.
Great. Okay. Let me first save and then So welcome to session 2 of technical session. So today's topic, as you all know, basically embedded Python programming using Rugged Board. Okay. So first of all, I would like to clarify a small confusion. So please don't interpret embedded Python. So it's actually Python programming for embedded systems. So to make the title short, we made it as an embedded Python programming. Okay, so it's a normal Python, what you normally use, but like the libraries used in Python are more customized for the embedded system. So that's why the title of today's session is Embedded Python Programming. And obviously Ashraful has given a lot of insight about the Rugged Board. So the Rugged Board is an open source platform built by Phytech, an initiative by Phytech. It's an open source, so that like in couple of months, our dream is to enable as many as embedded engineers to build their own SBCs, single board computers. So the motto of this open source initiative is basically to enable the people to develop their own single board computers. So that is the basic idea, and you need not to do it from scratch. So Phytech leverages its 35 years of German expertise to use the SOM, and you can build your single board computers with a very less complexity and less time, right? So before jumping into today's session, I also wanted to give a brief about the activities which we are doing on a daily basis. Uh, this is mainly for the people who are new to the session. The old people already have heard about this. The open session is more a techno-commercial session which helps to make a business decision to develop your product. So right here you talk with multiple semiconductor companies, software companies, manufacturing companies, basically, and try to understand the ecosystem available in India, so that like when you think of an idea and you want to develop a product and launch it in India and global market, basically, so what all infrastructure and ecosystem available in India, that is what we are trying from Phytech, collaborating with multiple partners. We have just now completed 12 sessions in open session, right? So this is mainly meant for the product managers, system architects who is responsible for the features and the prices, basically, and the managers who are responsible to design the product and deliver it in right time, the organization heads, CTOs, CEOs, basically, who want to build their product successfully and launch the product in the market. And then finally, not limited to all these guys, but also the developers who build the product, right? Like, so they should know what is the best component going into the product and how to program and all. And finally, last but not the least, the HODs, faculties, and the students, because they are the future, they build the future developers or the future expertise in embedded domain, right? So this is the open session, which is more enable you to, if you have an idea how to convert into a product and what is the ecosystem available. So it is a techno commercial kind of discussions happens in the technical session. As we know, this is now today we are in the technical session number 2, in which we are more trying to enable in the technical session to go deep into the programming and the coding part, and trying to understand what are the different components and how you can make your life easy and quickly develop your product. So here we will be trying to explore more and more the existing resources, which makes your life easy to develop any product, basically, right? So the focus is more about towards the developers, system architects, and then finally, again, we don't miss the upcoming engineering resources, which are nothing but students and faculties. So the open sessions are on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whereas the technical sessions are on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So let's come to the today's agenda. So today's agenda, I would like to speak as we started the title as embedded Python programming. So first of all, I would like to introduce the embedded interfaces, and then further we will see those interfaces on the rugged board as an example. So it is not limited the people who have other boards, right? Like open source community boards like Raspberry Pi or BeagleBone or Odoo, or like there are multiple boards. So I would maybe Monday would be a good session. I believe we will explore a lot of open source hardwares. So we will try to explore. So any hardware which is running a Linux, this session will be still applicable. Probably the libmra has to be supported on that. We will also list what are the MRA supported hardwares. Okay, so now the second topic is the third topic is MRA library. So we will essentially try to understand what is this MRA library and then how it enables us to do the embedded programming using Python. So continuing, first we will try to deeply understand, go into little bit on architecture and how what is this MRA library and all, and then next we will jump into what are the APIs provided by MRA library, so that like you can do the programming on Linux platform without having much knowledge on Linux. So this all the session is more about you are going to use a Linux board, a Linux based hardware, but you need not to have a deep understanding of Linux operating system. That's how like this MRA library helps us, right? And the last we will try to show you the demos, couple of demos, not all, couple of demos, and then wind up the session. So multiple requests has been coming about the practical sessions. So at the end of the session, I will discuss how to address the practical oriented. So this would be more technical sessions, would be more on technical discussions followed by demos, which is restricted to 1 hour or 1.5 hours. Normally we jump in, right? So let's come to the first topic, the embedded interfaces. Now coming to the embedded interfaces, so I tried to capture few of them. So now the first category is the GPIO, right? So now what is the GPIO is all about? So the general purpose input output. Think of two chips which you have taken, and you want to interface, or two devices, electronic devices you have taken and interfacing with each other basically, right? So now when you are interfacing these two devices, the very simplest form you would feel is basically you pull out some lines from your processor or microcontroller and connect it to the device. Like it could be a sensor, it could be a display or so, and then like toggle these lines from your code to send some data, right? So essentially this is also called a parallel interface. This is called a parallel interface. So when you say communication, you want to send the data from one device to the another device, right? So now what you do, you write some bits on the one side, and then like all these bits has to be transferred to the other device basically. So now, so the GPIO is the very basic interface between two devices, especially mainly between two devices or two chips basically. So it depends what are the GPIO voltage level. Accordingly, you can either it can be chip to chip interface, or it can be chip to device interface, or device to device interface basically, right? So now, now once you have this GPIO, the main advantage of GPIO is it is the most simplest interface to transfer your data from one chip to another or one device to another basically. But at the same time, it needs lot of space. Why? If you want to send 8 bits of data, then you need to have 8 lines parallel when you are using as a parallel interface, right? Or like you use one GPIO and toggle it to transmit the serially. But when you want to manage transmit the same 8 bits through serial, then what you have to do, you have to manage lot of timings, clock and all those things manually. So that's how what you do in order to reduce the infrastructure. The parallel interface takes lot of GPIO. For 8 bits you need at least 8 data lines and 1 read write signal, and then maybe 1 latch enable pin. So normally, if you remember, most of you would be embedded microcontroller engineers. So if you think of a 2x16 character based LCD, you have 8 data lines, and then you have a read write latch enable pin or a enable pin, basically, which normally what you do, you put the data on this on the transmission end, and then like generate a enable signal, right? You generate an enable clock which tells the receiving end saying that now the valid data is available on the bus and I have to read that. So that's how the normal parallel communication happens. And then in this you need lot of pins and a lot of interfaces. If you are designing a circuit or so, you need a lot of space. So in order to overcome, you come with a serial communication. So now below all are more or less serial communication. So the first simplest serial communication is your UART, wherein which you have 3 lines: RX, TX and ground. So deep into these communication protocols, we will go in further more classes when you are designing your own single board computer, and then when we are also trying to program these interfaces, we will also look into little bit deep. I will try to cover brief currently. So the from UART to GPIO to UART, when we are jumping from GPIO to UART, is basically what you are trying to do. The same 8-bit data you want to transmit using serially. What do you mean by serially? You put this 8-bit of data to a shifting. If you are a digital electronics, if you recall your digital electronics concept, right? You put 8 bits and then you generate a clock to shift each bit at a time, right? So similar kind of stuff. So that way, like you want to transmit the data over a serial line. So now in UART you have 3 lines: RX, TX and ground, basically. So this is the simplest serial protocol to transmit it. And in order to have the data integrity, you have a couple of more signals, not only your data signals, but also couple of signals. Example, your start bit, stop bit and parity bit, right? So now this
कॉर्नफ्लेक्स कॉर्नफ्लेक्स गु खैले हैं अथु दोसर है बगल में बेचाला तक जाके.
Ashraful, can you take care of someone who is taking
yeah, hello can you
हाँ लाइन नहीं से वो अच्छा तरह है
just a second.
Okay. So
Can you, okay, I'll mute it from
directly mute Ashraful, no need to ask.
Okay sir, yeah, done sir.
So when you are when you are going for a UART, it is the simplest serial protocol, but it is mainly one device to another device, or like it is half duplex, right? And then in UART you have, it can be extended through different PHYs like RS-232 to extend the range, like which you can go up to 2 meters. And then like further range you want to extend, and then you want to make it a multi-device, then you can go for RS-485. Similarly, for many of industrial or like military applications, basically you have RS-422, right? So these are the different physical interfaces derived from UART. So RS-232, RS-485 and RS-422. Those are at a 5-level transitions. Coming to the I2, this I2C is mainly meant for chip-to-chip communication, IIC, right? Integrated circuit, IIC, chip-to-chip communication, and it has the advantage of master-slave, and then it can have multiple slaves. So that is the main advantage. This is the use case. Now today when you go for your mobile, now you can see lot of sensors. The very first sensor is your proximity sensor, right? When you keep your mobile near your ear, when you get a call, the screen get off. How it is? There is a proximity sensor, and this proximity sensor, when you realize how it is connected to your processor, it is mostly by I2C. So similarly, your touch controller, your accelerator. So there are many of these sensors which are in your mobile, which are connected through I2C. The main advantage of I2C is it can support multiple of devices through addressing addressing scheme on the same bus. But like the speed is limited, so that's how you jump from I2C to SPI basically. So where in which in I2C you have again serial data, serial clock, right? So these are the two lines you are available. But like it limits at some point of time, any one device can talk, and then like it can transmit the data in a single direction basically, right? So the SPI at a time, I'm saying. That's why to increase the speed, you have a SPIs, serial protocol interface, wherein which you can increase the data speed, and you have additional line. You have a data in, data out, and then you have a clock, and then you have a chip select. So there are 4 lines, basic 4 lines, which increases some speed. Similarly, when you go from, still you need a more high bandwidth, you go for a SDIO, which is a more or less expansion of from SPI basically. Then you know the USB as a standard, very standard protocol, but it have lot of software standards which makes you to address multiple devices on the same bus and very high speed. Then you jump to the Ethernet, and then you jump to the CAN. So whenever we say normally CAN, many of the people think that it is limited to the automotive interface. Now it is not really limited to automotive. So now there are many building management applications, many industrial applications, especially coming to this EV or the energy sector, right? So now all the batteries which you get, battery packs for your electric vehicles or battery packs for your home also, most of these batteries will be having a battery management systems which will be enabled with the CAN protocol. So now CAN is not limited to the automotive, it is also extending to the general industrial communication thing. Now coming to the display interfaces, so the very basic display interface is your RGB, which is similar to your concept I have discussed about the GPIO. So you have 16-bit or 24-bit RGB display interface, wherein which most of the displays you will find, especially when you are going for the displays up to 7-inch. The displays up to 7-inch is mostly use RGB. When you go beyond 7-inch, say 10-inch or 15-inch, normally in embedded we limit up to 15-inch, but like there are special cases where you go for the bigger displays, right? So in that case, what happens when you transmit the data parallelly using RGB, there could be a lot of interference, and there could be a lot of interference, and the noise can be generated over RGB. So that's how what you do, you convert or you transmit over a LVDS, which is your differential pair. It is a differential pair serial display interface, which will transmit the data on a high speed. As you know, most of you would be electronics engineers. You might know the differential pair, right? Like, so we transmit the same signal using plus minus instead of using one line. So then the display interface came because of the mobile market. The MIPI is more a mobile processor standard. DSI stands for a display serial interface. Similarly, you have the same standard for camera serial interface basically. So the VGA is the legacy one, which is more analog. So normally what happens, you have a RGB data, you need a DAC, digital to analog converter. This DAC will generate your RGB analog signals, which can be connected to the monitor, right? And then you have HDMI, which is more a digital interface, which is digital interface, and a very high speed interface. So whenever you go for a bigger displays, whenever you think of more than 20-inch, you should always try to see you use HDMI interface. So nowadays, most of the chips, high-end multimedia chips or the processors also supports HDMI basically. The best example I could give IMX6, IMX8. These are the most multimedia processors which are more widely used in industrial HMI things basically. Then coming to the high-speed communication. So these are a little bit more PC oriented, but like since we need a few special interfaces which can be very high speed, like in gigabit speed. So you go for MPCIe, which are also nowadays available on some of the embedded processors. And then for the storage interface, you have also SATA interface. So not many of the processors, embedded processors, you will get these interfaces, but you have. And now we are slowly, as you know, we are slowly moving from fixed silicon to a programmable silicon. I don't know how many of us have heard about RISC-V architecture. Slowly you would see in coming days, you would also start using RISC-V architecture, where it is a open source processor architecture. You can build any of these embedded interface by yourself. Today, when you are selecting any microcontroller, many times you see, hey, I need 10 UARTs, but this processor gives only 5 UARTs or 6 UARTs, right? So there is a huge limitation. So that limitation probably will be going to be overcome by this open source processor architecture. The RISC-V architecture is the open source processor architecture, wherein which you could able to build your own micro controller or microprocessor with your own defined interfaces very easily. So now let's jump to the second topic. I believe this would have given a brief idea when we say embedded. So mostly when you are using a more process PC, you might be only knowing USB, Ethernet, VGA kind of VGA and SATA, MPCI interfaces. But these are the major interfaces when you come to the embedded. So let me quickly define the rugged board, because in most of the upcoming sessions, we will be using the rugged board as a platform to show you the embedded Linux and all those things, as it is a open source hardware. So what I mean to open source hardware, you can build your own rugged board. The people who are interested, if they are tuned to us and if they believe they want to build a similar kind of single board computer, we make sure that you learn the complete this thing within next 3 months. That's how these technical sessions are programmed. So you can build your own single board computer. That's the idea. So how it is more possible, if you are a microcontroller guy, consider this green part as microcontroller, and then how easily you can develop your own microcontroller board. The same way you can also develop a Linux based board, a single board computer basically. So Kishore, would you like to share the camera? I will switch off.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
My video. Yes, sure, sir. So we have the demo setup. So probably what I thought is, let me take help of Kishore.
Sir, is it visible?
I'm just trying to switch. I don't know. It is taking some time. Yeah, 1 minute. I will try to switch off my video. Yeah, shared your video.
Yes, sir. Already shared, sir.
Ashraful, how can we make Kishore video as primary?
Sorry, turn off your screen sharing, sir.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it will be on the main screen. Kishore, turn on your video now.
Yeah, already turned on, Mr. Ashraful. So here on the upper point, like contact logo, we are able to view my
Yeah,
video.
Vasu sir, can you stop sharing your screen, please?
Yeah, I'm trying. So
No, stop sharing the screen. Screen share off.
yeah, I had to go to this window, right? So
Okay. Alternate and
yeah,
tab.
stop. Yeah.
So now can you view, sir?
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah.
We can see.
Hello. How can we make the full screen? There are two screens. Ashraful, do you have any idea?
Yeah. Just a second. Fit to frame.
Kishore, don't move the board. Better keep it stable.
Sir. Okay.
And then take a pen or so, and it is blur. So are you using your mobile?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah, that is the big problem, yeah.
Okay.
Use any kind of stand or maybe the glass. You just put your phone over the glass. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello?
So now,
Just use the glass and put your phone into the
for
glass.
participants, you can click on that Kishore name, and 3 dots will come there. That option menu. There you can click on as a pin. If you pin it, it will be full screen for participants.
Kishore, can you try to fix your mobile somewhere?
Yes, sir.
It's too blur because it is.
Kishore, use the glass. Use the glass. Sorry. Use the glass here and put the phone into that glass.
Yeah. Wait a second.
Yeah, Vasu sir, you may start explaining the peripherals.
Yeah.
Is it okay, sir?
Yeah. Still, you have to fix it. If you hold it, it will not come. It is still blur.
No,
You
sir.
can't-
Actually, I have fixed it, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
But somehow it is too blur. So not a problem.
No,
So
it's because of the video resolution, sir.
okay.
Yeah.
So Kishore, can you point out the power? So starting from the power. So this is a DC power, which is a 5 volts. From here you have the switching regulator, which converts from 5 volts to 3.3, and another 5 volts directly go to the another sections. In the SOM, we also generate couple of more voltages in the center of the SOM, which is a PMIC over there. And then you have the second option is a debug port, which is a USB one. And then like you this debug port have two functions. You can while development you can use it as a power source to power the board. At the same time, the UART console of this board is converted to FTDI chip. So just as there is a small chip before that USB connector, which is nothing but your FTDI chip, which converts your UART console to USB. So when you power on the board, you don't need any USB to serial converter. You just take this board and connect the board to your PC directly. So you can, and then you can open up the terminal. You should be able to see the shell. So this USB port, USB OTG port serves two purposes. One as debug console, and then
Vasu
second
sir,
one is
Vasu
Vasu
sir,
sir,
can you share your screen? Like
Vasu sir,
the
sorry,
board is not visible.
yeah,
let
it's
me tell how can they see the video. Just a second. I'll just share my screen to everyone. Please see like how the steps what I do. Okay. Just a second.
no, Ashraful, it's better now. Many people have to do. It's better. I go with my screen. It will take a lot of time because there are 100+ participants. It is
No,
difficult.
that's okay. That's okay. They can do it very easily. Basically, just a second. So my screen is visible, right? I hope you are also seeing this screen in your place,
Yeah.
in your system, right? So
Yes,
what you
yes.
have to do is just click on this three dots here and click on pin. So it will be full screen like this.
Okay.
That's it. And after this video is over, you can go and do the unpin from here.
Or else what I can do is, Ashraful, better I share my screen and then I pin the Kishore one. It's more better.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
So now it is visible to everyone, I believe, since I am sharing.
Yeah. You make it full screen. No, not there. Near to that screen sharing. Yeah, there you have the full screen option.
Okay. So is the resolution is less from the camera? Something that?
It is
Ashraful?
because of the bandwidth of the data rate.
Oh, okay.
Camera quality is good, but this because of this video sharing, it's happening like this.
Okay. Probably for future classes we have to set mainly maybe a stable camera we have to do. Anyhow, so let's jump. So this the next one is basically as we say we discussed about the dedicated DC power supply, which is mainly meant when your product is ready, you should use this DC power supply. While your development, no need to have a DC power supply. You can still use a USB power supply. So there is a small jumper setting over here, which you can choose whether you want to have a DC power supply or a USB power supply basically. So the USB power supply, again, please remember, it is mainly meant for development purpose and not for the deployment purpose. Okay, so we will talk about the technical challenges of USB power supply for the production grade or on field. Because many times you have many other peripherals and the current which is provided by your USB interface might be limited. That's why we recommend to have a dedicated DSP power supply, DC power supply, sorry. So the next interface is your Ethernet, so which is a 10/100 Ethernet, and then the PHY is available on the SOM. So we will go a little bit more hardware detailed later on in the hardware session. We don't have must from a you have a Ethernet MAC on the chip, and then you have a PHY. From this PHY, it goes to the Ethernet connector, which is inbuilt magnetic. So this Ethernet connector have an inbuilt magnetic basically. So that's why you can't see a big black chip before the connector. Now the next connector is your USB host. So there are two USB hosts basically, which are used for the any USB devices connectivity, but one of the host port is shared with your mini PCI. So the mini PCI is below this whatever these 4 mounting holes you see on the back side of the board, you have the mini PCI. This you can see over here, right? Where in which you can connect your all cellular modules basically. 3G, 4G in future, NB IoT and all those cellular modules you can connect over here, or even you can connect AIML. So now LoRa gateway, simple example, LoRa gateway module, you have SX3 based LoRa gateway module which comes as a mini PCI form factor. Remember, it is a mini PCI form factor, not the mini PCI interface. So mini PCI form factor, and the actual interface is USB. USB 2.0 is what used. So in this you have USB, I2C and UART. Those are the signals which are available on this connector. Kishore, can you turn the board? Then you have after the USB port, you have a small I believe the 6-pin connector for I think 5-pin, right? For RS485 and CAN. So this is the
Yes,
first
sir.
connector.
R5.
Okay, and then like the next pin is 2 UARTs with RS232 signals, not TTL, RS232 signals. And then the next connector is having digital IOs. So now what is the difference between GPIO and digital IO? It's very simple. We have added some opto circuit over here which can isolate the signals, input signals coming from a device, external device, directly to the processor. So here it adds a opto circuit which increases the your voltage levels which can be input. So here, for example, you can give up to 0 to 24 volts can be sensed or generated basically. So this is a digital input, and then further you have a digital output, four channel. So there are 4 digital inputs and there are 4 digital outputs basically. The next connector, right? So then you have here the gold one which is shining over here is your actually the SIM card and the SD card slot. As I told, when you are connecting your mini PCI based 4G modem, you have to insert a SIM slot. So this is the SIM slot over here, and then you have a SD card slot. So this is a combo module, and then wherein which you can have both these SIM card and the SD card. Further coming, the most interesting part of this board is microbus connector. Kishore, can you show? So this is the microbus connector which have multiple microcontroller interface signals. So starting from GPIO, UART, I2C, SPI, ADC, PWM. So these many signals are available on this microbus connector. And then like Kishore, can you show the microbus one of the sensor board? Ask Prashant to show. Okay.
Yeah,
so the
sure, sir.
microbus is a nowadays IoT standard interface. So many of the industrial IoT gateways have this microbus connector standard. So it is a microbus connector standard. So here you can see there is a GSM, GPS and Bluetooth. This is not fully microbus, but like this connector over you can see which will be plugged into those microbus connectors basically. Okay, so so like this, the advantage of this, now you can have this board can be evaluated for hundreds of sensors without modifying this board. So you just have to change these interface boards, right? So, and then the next connector is your expansion connector. Other than microbus connector, you have an expansion connector wherein which all the left signals of the processor. So you need, say, let us suppose you need 20 GPIOs or 30 GPIOs. Many of this time basically you can pull out from the expansion connector, the black one, this one. Kishore, can you point out? Yeah. So this is the brief about the interfaces. So let me quickly jump how to program these interfaces. Now we have seen multiples of interfaces and how to for what purpose they can be used. Now let us see how they can be programmed. The next topic. Thank you, Kishore. You can switch off and get ready for the demo. Probably see how you can improve the video quality for the demo. Kishore.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
So the detailed hardware document you can download. So the complete hardware manual is available. So whatever we discussed now, it is all available in the hardware manual. And the beauty is this complete board, whatever we discussed again and again, we are telling you can design your own single board computer. That is the basic idea. Now let's come to the third topic. Basically, is about our Python programming. As we told, today the main topic was how to do the embedded Python programming. Till now we have been discussing only on the embedded portion. Now let us quickly jump into the Python programming. Now, in order to achieve this Python programming, so normally what you have to do, in last class we have discussed, in the technical session we have discussed about the embedded software architecture, where you have seen hardware, bootloader, kernel and root file system, right? So now when you have looked into this, the last part, which is nothing but your root file system. So what that root file system consisting had, it have a lot of C, C++ or any other language which are supported by Linux. All those languages, libraries can be put into that root file system. And then the user can write applications using those libraries, right? So one of those library which we have picked basically is MRAA. So there are two libraries, one is MRAA and another one is UPM. So we will keep UPM for the next topic, next session topic, where today we focus more on the MRAA. So the MRAA is a C, C++ library which actually builds a wrapper on top of Linux operating system or any other operating system basically, and gives you the APIs irrespective of the hardware. That means you are able to develop a code, a sensor code or an application code, any of your IoT application code independent of the hardware. How it is possible? When MRAA is ported on a particular hardware, you use only MRAA APIs basically. Now these MRAA, why we selected MRAA? Now you ask why we go for MRAA library and why not for any other library? You can go with any other library, but if you do some small research, basically what happens, either those libraries are proprietary or provided by some vendor, SoC vendor or a OS vendor or a platform vendor, okay, or else you have a open source libraries, but not all together. You will get a GPIO library, RPi GPIO. You would be using the most famous library, I believe, right? So you would get a libraries for each of the interface alone. So that means for each of the interface, you have to find different libraries, and you really don't know how these libraries interact with each other when you are having multiple interfaces in the single application, right? So you need something which is more concrete. So we thought when Phytech, as a Phytech, actually we select industrial applications. So we thought of selecting some good industrial grade library, and we evaluated many, and finally we zeroed down to the MRAA library. Okay, the main contributor of this library is Intel. So earlier it was more promoted by Intel. This is a Eclipse based project. The people who are new to Eclipse, so Eclipse is open source community which started with Java based tools, and many stacks has been developed as a open source. If you are a microcontroller guy and you are using a IDE today, when you use any microcontroller IDE, there is a chances 90% of the chances are those are built using Eclipse IDE. Right, so Eclipse earlier Eclipse was mainly a IDE for the Java developers, built in Java. So the complete development was in Java basically, and it was used for Java coding. So that's how the Eclipse project started, but it is now not limited. It is a huge IDE for your coding. And then like there are multiple, then slowly it has built into a bigger community. And then like now we have not only IDE project, you have multiple other projects, like Kura was one of the open source gateway project. When if you are looking for a industrial gateway solution and you are looking for any gateway software architecture, you can find Kura. Kura is one of the open source gateway architecture. I think I have covered in one of the older session actually. So this Eclipse project, and then the major contributor was Intel. So where in which they wanted to abstract the hardware and then give a very simple APIs to the users. So the beauty is when you are selecting again some library, the beauty is as an embedded developer, we should not lose the performance. So in order to retain the performance, we selected the library which is built using C or C++, which is the highest performance languages, right? When you go for a Python or a Node.js or any other languages, high level languages, you have to compromise on little bit on the performance. So the beauty of this MRA library, the blue one which you see on top of kernel, which is built purely on C++, and then to this C++ library, bindings has been created, right? So today the MRA gives the application binding for Python, application binding for Node.js, application binding for JavaScript. So many bindings has been happened. So that's why the Mara seems to be a best choice for the hardware programmers basically who are new to the hardware programming or new to the Linux basically. So these are the interfaces already supported by MRA basically. So how to port MRA, I am not covering in this. It is little bit more technical. This session is more how to use MRA and make your embedded programming more easy. So if you can see MRA, the people who are little bit new to Python, they might have to learn little bit of Python. If you are in Python, you can see what I have did is MRA is the library which you have imported, and then we have having different classes. So GPIO is one class, PWM is one class, I2C is another class. Similarly, SPI is class available is there. For analog, you have AIO class, and then you have for UART, you have the class. So these are the different classes available within the MRA library. What you have to do is you have to understand the APIs of each of the class and then use appropriately basically. So the simplest would be the GPIO to start with. Here you can see MRA.GPIO class, wherein which you are passing the pin, and then you are defining the owner and whether it is a raw GPIO or not. Basically, these are optional. So you just can pass only the pin number. Here, if you see, and this pin number, there should be a small clarification. There are 3 levels of pin numbers. There is a SOC pin number where you say port 0 pin 1, port 2 pin 1, right? So when there is a SOC pin number, then you have to calculate the Linux pin number. The Linux pin number is basically port number into 32 plus the pin number. That means port 2 pin 1 in Linux will be, it will be 32, pin number 32 basically, right? And then like these pins are mapped in MRA board file. Whenever you are buying a board or like you are using a board with MRA support, they will be giving a MRA pin description. In our hardware manual, you can see which pin have which MRA GPIO pin number. So please extract this pin number from our hardware manual. So as I told, there are 3 types of pin numbers. One is SOC pin number, another one is Linux pin number, and third one is MRA pin number. Don't get confused. GPIO pin number, GPIO port 0.1 is your SOC pin number. The same one is P0.1 is 0 into 32 plus 1. So the Linux pin number is 1. And the same pin number in the MRA could be something else, whatever it is mapped in the sequence. So in MRA, we will map in the sequence. So which will be, it could be 5 or it could be 32 or so basically. In hands-on class, we will try to show you in the code. I'm not jumping into the code part. So here you can see here the 61, the GPIO pin number is 61. Which is connected to our LED. So there are 2 LEDs on the board, rugged board. So which we have configured. So this 61 and 62 is the MRA GPIO, GPIO 23 and GPIO 24. Ashraful, do you know the port number, the SOC port number? This 23 and 24 is, I think, the Linux port. Right? So here you can see
2320, this is the Linux, and this 61 is your MRA number.
What I'm asking is the SOC pin numbers.
SOC pin numbers is PC. Actually, this is IMX6 UL pins.
Okay.
This is PC13, PC. You can go to the developer.ruggedboot.com. In that it is there.
No problem. This is
just an example what you are showing.
No problem. Let me finish this. Yeah. Okay, so here you can see the best example. You have imported MRA and you have created a GPIO 1 and GPIO 2, which are your actually LED 1 and LED 2. And then you have started writing LED 1 and LED 2 0. And then you have made a delay. And then LED 1 off and LED 1 and LED 2.
2320, this is the Linux. And this 61 is your MRA number.
What I'm asking is the SOC pin numbers.
Yeah, it's a PC13 and a PC1719, sir.
Okay. Switch
PC13,
off.
17, 19.
Yeah. Gopal sir and Ashraful, can you switch off your audio? It's okay. Okay. Right. So here you can see a simple Blinky program without much understanding the Linux part. So you are programming this on the Linux part, wherein which you are able to switch on the GPIO and switch off the GPIO and then make a delay. Here we are sleeping for 1 minute and then like 1 second, I believe it is for second. And then like here you have a GPIO, again you are making it on and off. So this same example we will try to see on the demo part. So even you have the read API over here. So in order to run, you just have to go to the console of your rugged board and then run the Python program. So then like you will see the Python program is like you can see the blinky, the LEDs are blinking on your board. So this is a small example of comparing, like you have 2 things. You are using on the rugged board, you have user switches. Here you can see you have user switch. here, right? So user SW1. So using this switch as an input, and the LEDs over here, user LEDs are here basically. So using user switch, whenever you press the switch, you can toggle the LED. So this is the sample code for that. You can see over here what we have done. We are creating a button out of the GPIO, and then here we have written as a relay, but it can be LED, and then you are just checking in a loop. In a loop, you are checking whether a button is pressed. If the button is pressed, basically what you do, you check whether the LED pin is on or off, and you toggle it accordingly, basically, right? So this is a small example of read and write of the GPIO. So the next one is UART. So I will not much go into the UART details of the hardware thing. So we will discuss on the UART, but you can see the simple example. There are multiple UART devices which can be connected. So there are multiple of UART interfaces available on rugged board. In hardware session, I will try to cover in detail. Here what you can see is you have two RS-232s. Most of the shields will be either TTL or RS-232. You have to make sure you are connecting only RS-232 devices over here. If you are having a TTL RS-232, you have to connect over microbus connector. So on rugged board, when you want to connect serial devices, either use P4 when it is a RS-232, and if it is a TTL, try to use microbus. Over microbus, you have the UART pins basically, right? So using those pins, whatever today, when you talk about multiple of wireless protocols, so all those wireless protocols are available in terms of modules, say LoRa, Sigfox, or BLE or Zigbee, Wi-Fi, GPS, GSM. So all these, also there are a lot of industrial sensors which comes in terms of UART. So those all sensors can be connected directly and then programmed. So here is a small example of APIs. So UART init is one of the API, and then you have to set the baud rate. When you say serial port, you have to first initialize the UART with their pins. So this will do the pin muxing and all those stuffs. And then the next one is it generates, it initialize the set baud rate, will initialize the baud rate of the UART. So typically for your console and all, you use 1150-200. For the slow speed devices, you use 9600 baud rate basically. Right, and then like when you go for your further serial port parameters, you have to select how many data bits, and then whether you have stop bit is none, and then priority is 1 basically. So right, 8 and 1. 8 is the data bits. Parity is none, and then and then here you have the stop bit. So this is how you are able to set do the set mode, UART.set mode basically. So similarly, flow control you can control using set flow control. So with this you are able to initialize. So you have to UART init, UART set mode, and UART set flow control. So with these APIs, you are able to initialize the UART and then start sending or reading the data using these APIs, right? So UART.write str and UART.read str. So now, and there are a few more APIs. So for example, you want to wait till the data arrives. So this would be the one of the API which you can use to wait for the serial data to be arrived basically. And then the flush command basically, because internally there is a buffer handle. In order to clear the buffer handling, you use the flush. So this is a sample code. It is little bit clumsy. We have all these code. You can see over here. We have created U equals to UART 0. We have created a UART device instance, and then we have configured the UART with this baud rate and the mode and the hardware flow. Once you have done this, basically, then you are creating a string and writing it, right? So this here likewise you are doing some sending. So here there are two boards or two in the rugged board you have two UARTs, so you can connect cross connect each other, and then you can have a simple chat kind of application, wherein which on one window you are sending and another window you are receiving, and then another window you can send and then like you can receive. So master slave kind of a small example, you can test it because you have two UARTs, or like same UART you can loop back. You can connect TX RX pin, you short them. So similarly you have for PWM. So I will run little bit because it's already 1:20. So for PWM you have mostly you have what is the PWM duty cycle and on and off, basically, right? So you can initialize the PWM, and then you can enable the PWM, and then you can also set the duty cycle using period in microseconds, basically, right? So this is a small PWM. The PWM pin is available on microbus, so you have to little bit take care of the PWM voltage level, because if you have some device which can be controlled using PWM, probably you need a small additional hardware circuit to connect to this PWM. So normally the PWM, this PWM line directly goes to the processor pin. So it will be in terms of 3 voltage. So if you have another devices, normally you have a driver circuit, and that driver circuit will be taking input of 3 volts, but the other devices will be much more power, basically. So here you can see you have created a PWM, then you have set the period, and then you have enabled the PWM, basically. So the I2C, again, similar I2C, I will quickly go to the code here. So here you have created a I2C device, and then like you have, you are trying to read the register, initialize the initialize the device by reading this register, basically, and checking whether this is the address of the device. So I am trying to read the address of the device, and then if it is matches, okay. If it won't matches, then like it is it generates an error, basically. Then what you are trying to do here, it is, I think it is a small temperature sensor module, basically, wherein which you can read and write and then print the value of the sensors, basically. So similarly, you have SPI, wherein which you can see you create a SPI, and then you can create SPI, initialize the SPI. So in SPI, you create a message, and then you use write message to transmit that message. This is in terms of message RX TX buff, and the same value you can use in RX buff, basically. So you have to read when it is transmitting, you know that there is a loopback function in the SPI. It will return whatever the transmitted buffer, and you can cross check, basically. So this is a small Python program for the ADC. So these all things you can connect over microbus connector. So we can have a hands-on workshops over this. So I'm trying, the agenda of this technical session is to introduce what is MRA. So MRA is a C++ library, and it gives a beautiful Arduino-like APIs, and without compromising on the performance, and it is an active community program. So if you can see in if you see on the web, basically, right, you can see these all are the active projects. Supported by major vendors like Intel. This link I would share in my PPT. You can see over here. You can see the binding to Java, JavaScript, and Python, and then also supported by multiple vendors. These are the support of the devices. And then you can see over here, who all vendors have been actively supporting. Yeah, you can see here there are multiple Eclipse projects, and then here you can see there are the vendors we are supporting. So IBM, the companies like IBM, Linaro, Google, Emutex, Phytech, GE, Technexion, Qualcomm, ST Microelectronics, uBlocks, Honeywell, Siemens, MediaTek. So these are the multiple vendors contributing in this MRA library, and it is active project. So that is the one of the reason why we choose this MRA library on top of Linux, to make the use of the hardware interfaces. So it is a hardware abstraction layer written in C++, providing binding to high-level languages like JavaScript, Python, Node.js, and other languages basically. And beauty is, since it is a Eclipse-based project, you can find there is a huge synergy between other Eclipse open source projects like Mosquitto, Paho, M2M projects. So there are many projects under Eclipse open source community. So this will really help you to do that. So I believe I will wind up this and try to take up the question answers. Basically, our team will try to improve the quality of this presentation and share the final presentation on SlideShare, so that you can able to find the links in our community forum. So please tune to our community forum. Ashraful, can you help me to filter out some of the queries? Quickly we do, and then wind up by 1:30.
Yeah, sure, sir. Most of the questions I have already answered actually here on the chat box, and still like I'd like to take some of the questions, especially for PWM. Okay, like lot of questions are there. I think we may not be able to answer all the questions, but I'll try to go as soon as possible. So one question is there. How to install MRA using MRAA? So maybe this question little bit, it will be more you have to explain. So can you go with that by the time I find some more questions?
See, the MRA you cannot install like a package basically. So if you are a board manufacturing guy, basically what you have to do is you have to ask your team to port the MRA library and integrate as a part of your BSP. So what you have to do is there is a porting method where you have to create a small MRA board file in the library and cross compile and make it as a part of root file system. So when you go to the MRA website, you can see there is a supported board list, or you have to ask your vendor to provide the supported MRA part. If you are a board manufacturer, then you have to do it yourself. If you are keen about, we can have a dedicated session or a workshop how to port a MRA on a given hardware basically. Okay.
Yeah.
it is not a ready package because it is more a abstraction for your hardware to give a hardware independent APIs, right? So it is little bit your developer team or like the board vendor has to provide. In our case, the rugged board is already we ported the MRA on the rugged board, and also we are the official contributors for MRA, where you can see we port most of the FiTech boards like Vega board, rugged board. We have ported multiple of things. So our guys have experience of porting MRA on a given board. We can teach you, or if you want, we can also port MRA on your board. Basically, normally for Raspberry Pi or so, you can find it already ported available. Port is available.
Yeah. So one question is, can we purchase this board and try it out by ourselves?
Yes, you can always. That is why it has been made as a open source hardware, so that like you learn all these concept and then you can do hands-on by yourself. So we will be having another sessions like open session, technical sessions, and then we have another hands-on things, which is workshops. So which will not be this 1 hour, 1.5 hours. It has to be something around 2 hours or 3 hours, wherein which people can do their own. They have their own boards, or we will also make these boards available to access remotely. So we will be having a remote access using which you can access this board and do the practical. So whatever the codes which has been shown can be explained in deep by my technical team, and then you can try the same code on our board, either by owning a board, you can buy a board, or else you can access the same board remotely. So let us suppose due to this pandemic, the shipment of the board, or like maybe the people are attending from different countries also. So those shipping to different countries, if it is delayed, you can request our team to access the boards remotely. So we have a remote access to these boards. Probably you might have to take a membership subscription on the rugged board, so which is a low cost subscription for 1 year. You write to us, our team will able to provide that.
Yeah.
So currently I think
can you share our contact details on the chat?
I think it is already available on this banner also. It is available, Ashraful. So
yeah.
You can change it to the rugged board, not a problem. The mobile number,
also it is available
this is a
in
WhatsApp
our
number, so we are much accessible.
Yeah. So one more question is, can you does it support RS485? So yes, it supports RS485. Actually, we have RS485 with isolation. So you have
No. Ashraful, the RS485. The question is RS485. The board have RS485, or like if RS485 in MRA library? No. It is more you have to do small tweaking for RS485. The physical RS485 port is already there. We have discussed, and they can go through the hardware manual. So in my presentation, I will try to include the hardware manual, but you can go to the website and then go to the download section. The RS485, we have a simple non-isolated RS485 with AB.
Yeah. So one more question is, can MRA libraries be used to interface to regular C programming instead of Python?
Yes, as I told, so it is the library written in the libraries. The MRA library is written in C++. So the basic interface is C. So you can very much use in C. Whatever the APIs we have discussed today are more or less also available in C. The little bit syntax will be changing, but most of the APIs are still valid for the C also. So we can have a dedicated session for that also. Maybe that would be more a workshop rather than a technical session.
Yeah. Okay.
How many GPIO pins are available? There are plenty of GPIOs. So you can. The beauty is you are not buying a ready-made hardware. You can customize this hardware. So all all the pins which are available on microbus, which are available on the expansion connector can be configured. Many of them can be configured as GPIOs. So at least it is not limited in terms of 5 or 10. I believe beyond 20, you can easily tap it out. But like you have to do little bit of modification on the device tree. So what is device tree and all, we will be covering in the kernel porting part and all. So how to customize your own operating system on a given hardware. In that we will try to, but like you can take help of our team to, if you want many GPIOs. So then how many inbuilt timers are available? Probably I don't have a specific answer, but Ashraful can one of our developer can quickly check and reply to Rahul. Can we use MRA library on any Linux supported board? Very much yes. As I told, we have to port it. Around 15 GPIOs already Ashraful has does work out of the box on rugged board. Yes, the MRA works out of the box because we have ported. Can we increase our GPIO using expander? Yes, you can increase. There is a I2C and SPI channels are there. You can use a I2C expander chips, which will I2C or SPI expander.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen as well. I think you can.
No, yeah.
Yeah. So where was the last question?
110. I am around 110.
110 is it? Okay. Yeah, one more question is there. What about the ADC, DAC and timers counter DMA interrupts? So can we increase this numbers basically? So this is like as Vasu sir said, we can actually expand the GPIOs basically. So which is
the functions can also be you have to go through the hardware manual and you can select the different peripherals and you have muxing. So these all latest processors do provide lot of muxing facility. Using muxing, you can see, first of all, you have to see the data sheet of the processor. Then you have to go to the data sheet of the rugged board. And then like you can mux the things, pins available on the rugged board, or you can use the SOM, the core part.
Yeah. So I have given the link here for downloading the hardware manual and all those things, schematic, product flyer and BSP release notes you will get on this link basically. You can go through that. So next is what is the base platform required for Python and MRA library? So
the beauty is basically nowadays even there are ports of the MRA is already also ported in some of the microcontroller also. So there is no as such limitation. So it is just a wrapper. And then like it provides the same APIs over a microcontroller or a microprocessor. And then Python, as you know, like the libraries within the Python will limit. But like you can use Python, there are tiny Python which is available for microcontroller, and then normal Python which is running on the boards like rugged board. So this is a Linux platform. So there is as such for the base platform, you just have to go to the MRA and see what are the operating systems supported and the SOCs supported. SOC, not really SOCs, but at least operating system supported. So from there you can make easily.
Yeah,
but so most of the operating system like Linux and Zephyr and then like other operating system already supporting.
Yeah.
The next question is, what is the typical end of life of SOM boards using the same CPU? Normal 10 to 15 already done. Assuming I have changed the application, there is no need to change the Linux image or application, right? Assuming that I have not changed the application.
Yeah, actually it is not required. It is something like if some kernel upgradation or something like that, if you want to do later on, you can actually change, and otherwise actually it's not required. So it is up to you.
Hello. Yeah. Okay, Kanan here. Can I interrupt?
Yes, sir. Tell
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
You can tell the question clearly. I am not very much clear.
Yeah, I had attended a seminar in 2017 or 18 in Pune, and later had shifted to Raspberry Pi because it had had converted our existing microcontroller system to a graphical user interface using GTK. But in Pi, like the main thing is it's okay. It's easier to go through because of the forums and all. But we are more worried about the end of life because since we're into product manufacturing, what happens is every 1 or 2 years we can't expect that to again migrate to a new platform and redevelop things which typically is not required in our scenario.
Yeah.
So we are looking at also FiTech right now. So one other advantage is like looking crisscross to Raspberry Pi is about a HDMI interface. Where it is very easy to reconfigure the resolution size external within the boot folder and all. So that would be better because else we get stuck up to only one LCD screen which has a fixed resolution because our is more graphical based system. So is it possible to have HDMI interface in the future or in your existing
the
boot?
HDMI feature will be, see here there are different SoCs. I think, I don't know if you have could able to got a chance to attend our other sessions. So embedded processor selection. So you have to choose an appropriate processor for your application. So there are different SOMs which supports HDMI basically. On this current rugged board, it is a very low end processor which is Cortex A5. It is an entry level which we designed for embedded developers but having almost all the industrial interfaces, right? So it is rich in feature, low in performance and the high computing part basically, but it is, when you compare to microcontroller, it is 10 times bigger than the microcontroller. But when you compare to the high end processing processors like with HDMI or edge computing and all those things, it is 4 times less computational power. And the special interfaces are not available in rugged board A5D2. There are multiple variants of rugged board basically, so you can choose an appropriate processor.
Okay, fine. For that, I'll probably put up a list of what is my requirement so you can best fit in the situation.
We can take it offline, sir. Yeah, we can take it offline. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. So next question is here. Can I use PWM as a timer or counter?
No, PWM is for output actually. So timer, many times timer and counter is a internal parts basically in which you want to capture, right? And then like the use cases are different. Probably we can take it offline basically, or like better we will explain detail in our forum.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And how many PWM channels are there? Around 4, I think it is available. Anyway, we can take this discussion later. So next question is this one. Rugged board can run GTK2 or GTK3.
So there are, as we told, the rugged board have different variants. The A5D2 is meant for a non-UI part. So the board which you have been seeing, which do not support, but there could be other variants of processor in future we will be supporting. And we have another variant of IMX6UL wherein which you can run Qt and other UI parts. GTK is little bit heavy. We normally avoid to use in embedded applications.
Yeah, and one more person has asked, Rahul has asked, can you please show that one demo with debugging? So you can visit our YouTube channel basically. So there mostly we try to post demo videos one by one. Right now, I think 1 or 2 videos are there.
You can do the GDB debugging. We will detail detail the complete tutorial on that.
Yeah, and
Ashraful, probably what we do is we will show the demo and we will take up the queries offline. Yeah, maybe you can post all these queries in the forum. You show, I think you have already shown the forum link. You hand over now control to Kishore and Kishore and Prashant, they will quickly show. We have some GPIO demo, and then like we have agriculture sensor, some soil moisture demo.
Yeah, okay, fine, yeah. Just
By the time you open the forum.
Yeah, just for a second, I'll open the forum. Actually, this forum is different than the FiTech Embedded forum. So you can go to ruggedboard.com and you can go for forum from here.
Or directly community.ruggedboard.com and forum.
Yeah. You can also search in Google that Ruggedboard forum, like that you can search in Google.
Kishore and Prashant, can you quickly show the demo? It's already late. You get 5 minutes. Sorry, it's extending.
Yeah. So here you can see you have a general discussion and RB A5D2 and RB IMX6 UL. So you can ask questions in the correct category, and we will try to reply as soon as possible. Basically,
Ashraf will try to capture all the queries in this session in the general forum or wherever it is applicable, and then like we will answer it. Don't miss. No? We will try to do it today.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Like we are very much sorry that we could not complete all the demo session today. I mean to say the like questions, but we will answer as soon as possible. Yeah.
Ashraful, you can pin Kishore. You have pinned the Kishore?
Yeah, I pinned here.
Hey, great.
Oh, okay. You want me to share the screen? Just a second. Okay.
I think, and then like Prashant also sharing the code screen. First, Prashant will go, and then I think Kishore, whose screen we have to share for the code running?
For the code running, Prashant will share, sir. So after that, the demo I will be showing here.
Yeah. Can you, Ashraful, can you share the Prashant's screen?
I think Prashant has not started yet. Can you share, please? Sorry, no, I cannot do that actually.
Yes, I'm sharing.
Prashant, you share your screen. That is enough.
Yeah.
Yes, I share the screen. Are you able to see?
Yes, we can see you. See your video.
Yes.
Prashant, can you say controls? Increase the font.
Okay, sir.
So once you boot this, once you boot the Rugged Board, you are getting this Rugged Board command prompt, and we have went to the data Python MRA thing, and then like cat LED blinky. You can see the same example, whatever we have discussed, you can see, and then the same thing he can run. Ashraful, you have to switch to Kishore's.
No, Prashant can share.
No. It's already there.
No, if I Prashant, can you just switch to the Teams?
Teams, okay.
Yeah, here it will be. Go and pin his screen. Go and pin his screen.
No,
not from there.
Screen. Okay.
Kishore, that three dots. Kishore name is there, no?
Yes.
Yeah, pin. Yeah. So here you can see the GPIO is blinking or not?
Yes.
You can.
It is blinking. Can you bring your mouse pointer there?
Take the mouse pointer. It stopped. You can rerun the code. Rerun the code and then.
It's already blinking. Yes.
So you have taken only 61 you have taken, right? Only 61.
Yes, only one pin I have taken.
Okay.
Yeah, can you show the code once again? Yeah, so here you have given the sleep time as how much? 1 second. Okay. And yeah.
That's okay. Ashraful, that's okay. We will jump to the soil moisture demo.
Yeah, okay.
Sir, give me 1 minute for setting that.
Okay.
So you have to do the connections and all. But meanwhile, Prashant, can you open the code?
Okay.
Is it in C or something?
Soil sensor code, sir.
Hmm.
Okay. Soil sensor code, I copied only binary in the
Okay,
board.
no problem. Meanwhile, you want to show the demo of UART? Okay, the same board is used by Kishore.
Yes, sir.
Increase the font a little bit. Yeah, if it is.
Yes. The setup is
Yeah, here we have connected the one of the soil sensor. It is in the pot. The pot is not clear, and then like it is connected. The soil sensor is connected to the rugged board. Kishore, can you show the connector on the rugged board side? So it is connected over the GPIO on the expansion pin, right? And then like you have the USB cable which
Yes,
is
sir.
connected to the Prashant's PC, using which you are seeing the values. So current value was Prashant. Can you switch back to the okay,
Yes.
90s, 98 or so? Prashant, go back to the video, and then probably Kishore, can you pour a little bit of water to change the? It's already high, yeah?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Sure.
No, it is dry. The value goes high when you put the water, or like it goes low.
Yeah, 1 second, sir. So, Gopal, are you? Hello. Gopal, can you explain the testing procedure for this one?
Yes, sir. If you pour the water, we will get the high value, sir.
It's already wet,
Yes,
high wet,
already
right?
wet. Yes.
You have some portion where you have low wet, and then like the value changes.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Maybe it will take little bit of time, settlement time.
Yes, sir. It is changing points 98.6
Yeah.
to 95, 98.5 like that.
Okay, it will take more time. Fine. So let's close. So to conclude the session today, basically, so I believe you got introduced to a library called MRAA. Ashraful, you can stop, or like Prashant, you can stop the screen sharing.
Yes, sir.
So Ashraful, can you open the technical session page?
Yeah.
On the website, technical session landing page.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just a second.
So to conclude, today you got introduced with a MRAA library which is written in C++ and provides a user level abstraction layer so that you can write your embedded code easily without having much knowledge of the Linux. It is more like accessing your Arduino kind of stuff. If you are a microcontroller guy, still you can start coding. Later on you can learn. It's not that you are not required to learn the Linux basics. It's better to learn the Linux basics, but initially to start, you can start in an easy way by using this MRAA library. Right, so the MRAA library is developed in C++, whereas it also provides the high-level languages binding like Python, Node.js, JavaScript, and all. So wherein which you can write a high-level programming, and you have a user user friendly APIs basically. So this we have talked about mainly on the interface programming. Why we spent initial time on understanding the interfaces, because this MRA is only providing the APIs to access the microcontroller interfaces. That's why we have discussed more on the interfaces in the beginning of the session, right? And then the next session we can explore more about the UPM library, which is more a sensor abstraction. So without writing a driver for the sensor, how can you access the or how can you write your IoT sensors programming basically? So that will be covered under next session. And that too you can use. We will show the using UPM library. The advantage again the same. You can code the same thing under Python or C or any other language basically. So just you have to log in and then like you will have access of this session. Thank you. It took long time.
Yeah, so once you are logged in, just you can click on join now and you will be able to see the meeting link there. So next time you can directly see the meeting link. And if you click the meeting link here, it will take you to the Teams. So the session details will be mentioned here itself. Go to fitechembedded.in, go to technical session series. So here, if you click, you will get you will see all the steps.
But to access the meeting link, we are using the same meeting link, so you can to access you just have to log in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Then thank you everyone for showing interest and participating today. And we will try to streamline this session much lesser time. Basically, we will try to optimize as much as possible. So thank you everyone. We will see you next week. Thank you. Bye bye.